There were senior Palantir employees that were also working on the Facebook data, said Christopher Wiley, a data expert and Cambridge Analytica co-founder, in testimony before British lawmakers on Tuesday. Cambridge Analytica has found itself confronting a deepening crisis since reports about the firm's data harvesting were published this month in The New York Times, The Observer of London and The Guardian. The connections between Palantir and Cambridge Analytica were thrust into the spotlight by Mr. Wiley's testimony on Tuesday. Both companies are linked to tech-driven billionaires who backed Mr. Trump's campaign. Cambridge is chiefly owned by Robert Mercer, the computer scientist and hedge fund magnate, while Palantir was co-founded in 2003 by Mr. Thiel, who was an initial investor in Facebook. Palantir employee, Alfredas Chmieliauskas, works on business development for the company, according to his LinkedIn page. In an initial statement, Palantir said it had never had a relationship with Cambridge Analytica, nor have we ever worked on any Cambridge Analytica data. Later on Tuesday, Palantir revised its account, saying that Chmieliauskas was not acting on the company's behalf when he advised Mr. Wiley on the Facebook data. We learned today that an employee, in 2013-2014, engaged in an entirely personal capacity with people associated with Cambridge Analytica, the company said. We are looking into this and will take the appropriate action. The company said it was continuing to investigate but knew of no other employees who took part in the effort. Wiley told lawmakers that multiple Palantir employees played a role. Documents and interviews indicate that starting in 2013, Mr. Chmieliauskas began corresponding with Wiley and a colleague from his Gmail account. At the time, Wiley and the colleague worked for the British defence and intelligence contractor SCL Group, which formed Cambridge Analytica with Mr. Mercer the next year. The3 shared Google documents to brainstorm ideas about using big data to create sophisticated behavioral profiles, a product codenamed Big Daddy. A former intern at SCL, Sophie Schmidt, the daughter of Eric Schmidt, then Google's executive chairman, urged the company to link up with Palantir, according to Mr. Wiley's testimony in a June 2013 email viewed by The Times. Ever come across Palantir? Amusingly, Eric Schmidt's daughter was an intern with us and is trying to push us towards them, one SCL employee wrote to a colleague in the email. Ms. Schmidt did not respond to requests for comment, nor did a spokesman for Cambridge Analytica. In early 2013, Alexander Nix, an SCL director who became chief executive of Cambridge Analytica, and a Palantir executive discussed working together on election campaigns. A Palantir spokeswoman acknowledged that the companies had briefly considered working together but said that Palantir declined a partnership, in part because executives there wanted to steer clear of election work. Emails reviewed by The Times indicate that Nix and Chmieliauskas sought to revive talks about a formal partnership through early 2014, but Palantir executives again declined. In his testimony, Wiley acknowledged that Palantir and Cambridge Analytica never signed a contract or entered into a formal business relationship. But he said some Palantir employees helped engineer Cambridge's psychographic models. There were Palantir staff who would come into the office and work on the data, Mr. Wiley told lawmakers. And we would go and meet with Palantir staff at Palantir. He did not provide an exact number for the employees or identify them. Palantir employees were impressed with Cambridge's backing from Mr. Mercer, one of the world's richest men, according to messages viewed by The Times. And Cambridge Analytica viewed Palantir's Silicon Valley ties as a valuable resource for launching and expanding its own business. In an interview this month with The Times, Mr. Wiley said that Palantir employees were eager to learn more about using Facebook data and psychographics. Those discussions continued through spring 2014, according to Mr. Wiley. Mr. Wiley said that he and Mr. Nix visited Palantir's London office on Soho Square. On side was set up like a high-security office, Mr. Wiley said, with separate rooms that could be entered only with particular codes. The other side, he said, was like a tech startup, weird inspirational quotes and stuff on the wall and free beer, and there's a ping-pong table. Mr. Chmielioskis continued to communicate with Mr. Wiley's team in 2014 as the Cambridge employees were locked in protracted negotiations with a researcher at Cambridge University, Mitchell Kaczynski, to obtain Facebook data through an app. Mr. Kaczynski had built. The data was crucial to efficiently scale up Cambridge's psychometrics products so they could be used in elections and for corporate clients. I had left field idea, Mr. Chmielioskis wrote in May 2014. What about replicating the work of the Cambridge prof as a mobile app that connects to Facebook? Reproducing the app, Mr. Chmielioskis wrote, could be a valuable leverage negotiating with the guy. Those negotiations failed. But Mr. Wiley struck gold with another Cambridge researcher, the Russian-American psychologist Alexander Kogan, who built his own personality quiz app for Facebook. Over subsequent months, Dr. Kogan's work helped Cambridge develop psychological profiles of millions of American voters.